Hello, welcome to What If Germany Won World War I. I will not compare it to our timeline as that would be boring for you good people. In 1914, the war to end all wars would begin. As Russia takes its time to mobilize a large fighting force, Germany launches an offensive into Russia. Warsaw is taken within a few weeks. Meanwhile, Serbia struggles to push into Austro-Hungarian lands. France attempts a push into Germany, but due to Germany's giant guns and proper equipment, France takes heavy losses. French forces try to launch a surprise attack through Luxembourg, but this fails and gives the German propaganda ammo. The Central Powers promise Italy part of South Tyrol, all of Savoy, Nizza, Corsica, Tunisia, and British Somalia. Italy salivates at the liberal amounts of land guaranteed by the Germans. In 1915, Italy joins the war. This puts pressure on France, who now has to split up their troops. Italy must slowly move through the mountains of the Alps. The British Parliament is surprised at swift German victories and so joins the war. The Royal Navy blockades Germany. The world sees British entry into the war as unjustified. The United States would protest the blockade. America had already declared neutrality and refused to give any loans to any nation at war. Now seeing Britain block the trade of food and consumer goods, relations would sour between the two English-speaking superpowers. The Russian forces retreat further back into their own lands. The Russians stop to fight in Kiev due to its strategic and logistical importance. In the resulting battle, 1.2 million Russians would fall. The economic situation for Russia collapses, and whispers of revolution are starting to spread. Lenin arrives in Petrograd. Germany promises Ukrainians, Polish, and other groups that they will be granted independent democratic republics if they support German armies. This new tactic is extremely effective. 50,000 Ukrainians alone join the army yearly. The Ottoman Sultan proclaimed jihad against the Entente powers and appealed for support from Muslims in Entente-controlled countries. Russia, now weakened and at the verge of collapsing, has to deal with Muslim insurgency in its Central Asian lands and an Ottoman army almost 200,000 strong and growing. France's offensive is completely halted despite the British Expeditionary Forces' support. This is thanks to Italian forces' landings in Corsica and the raids in the Alps. The French and British empires are also busy taking down Italian and German colonies in Africa. Lacking Arab support, the British colonial armies cannot march into Ottoman territory. Germany launches a minor counter-offensive against the French army in 1916, but thanks to the invention of tanks, the German advance is stopped at the town of Metz. To the horror of the Entente, Russia breaks down into civil war and signs a peace treaty with Germany. Germany creates democratic republics, but many of these nations decide to elect members of the House of Hohenzollern or Habsburg as their leaders, which means they're effectively puppets of Germany or Austro-Hungary. Before freed-up troops can arrive onto the Western Front, France launches one last offensive. It's costly and weakens the French. With 3 million German troops arriving from the east, the French fall back. Germany convinces the Netherlands to join the war as they march through Belgium. The fall of Paris is inevitable. The Central Powers now hold numerical, technological, and air superiority. In 1917, German forces enter Paris for the second time in history. France surrenders. With no allies left, the British Empire surrenders the day after. A peace treaty is signed in Stockholm. France loses important borderlands to Germany. These borderlands are not only rich industrial lands, but also the source of over 90% of French iron. This cripples the French. Belgium is split up between the Netherlands and Germany. Italy gets all of its promised lands plus Malta. Serbia loses over half of its land to Bulgaria, and remains are controlled by Austro-Hungary. Montenegro loses its coastal lands. Greece is rewarded with Cyprus for not joining the Entente. The Ottomans take the Caucasus region from Russia. We already talked about Russia's peace treaty, but notably Finland is able to escape German influence. Ottomans take large amounts of land in the Middle East. The Saudis are the only thing preventing full Ottoman control over Arabia. Germany annexes a large quantity of colonies. The Netherlands are given Senegal. The United States, having not entered the war, now has the strongest economy and navy in the world. To combat further German expansion, the USA forms the League of Nations. The members being the USA, the British Empire, France, Portugal, Saudi Arabia, the Russian Provisional Government, and the Japanese Empire. The abilities of this new alliance are tested brutally. Ireland breaks out in revolt against London. The Irish rebels are supported by German supplies and equipment. Though the rebels are successful in independence, the American Congress made it clear that democratic independence movements had nothing against the alliance as a whole. Due to the lack of aid from the USA, the British Parliament is unsure if they can trust the Americans through most of the interwar period. However, this is an exception to the current situation internationally. America and her allies are a strong faction that still could one day challenge Germany's new superpower status. Will the stock market still crash? Will the Kaiser hold on to his throne? Will oil make a resurgent Ottoman Empire? Will the Nazis still rise to power in Germany? Will there still be a WW2? We will answer all these questions and more in a second episode.